right, here we are working on notes number 5, system notes, graphing systems of inequalities. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to convert both equations to slope-intercept form. Okay, and remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay, the solution is the overlapping part or section. Okay, so when I look at this first one, we have x plus y is greater than 1, and y isn't by itself, so the first thing we got to do is get y by itself. So I'm going to say x plus y is less than 1. Did I say greater than before? It is less. It says less than according to the inequality symbol. Okay, so I'm going to subtract x, so I'm left with y equals, I'm going to take, not equals, is less than, we're going to keep that inequality the same, negative x plus 1. So now we can graph this one. So I'm going to go ahead and, starting on this positive 1, I'm going to graph it on that line right there. Okay, so my first point goes on positive 1. And then my m is this piece right here. So it just says negative x. So my m is going to be down 1 over 1. So from there, I'm going to go down 1 over 1. Okay, and if I can't go down 1 over 1, I'm going to do the opposite. So now I'm going to go up 1 to left 1. Okay, when I look at my inequality symbol, it doesn't have the solid line under it, so I'm just going to connect these with a dashed line. Okay, and now I'm looking at the alligator mouth. It says y is, the alligator's not eating the y, so it's going to be less than. So I'm going to shade everything that is underneath that line. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that line, and then I'm going to trace the outside of the graph just to connect that. And then just fill in. Okay, now I'm going to look at my next one. I have a negative 2x plus y. So I'm going to rewrite that. So negative 2x plus y is less than or equal to 3. So if I'm going to go ahead and graph that, I'm going to say plus 2x plus 2x. So now I have y is less than or equal to 2x plus 3. Okay, so that one is ready to graph. So I'm going to start with this positive 3. That goes on this line. So my first point goes on a positive 3. And then here is my slope. So my m is going to be 2. I don't have a bottom number, so it's over 1. So I'm going to go up to. Oops, I just turned my microwave off. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go up 2 to the right 1. And if I can't go up and to the right, I'm going to go down 2 and to the left 1. So just like they were both positive, now they're going to be both, oops, that should be a 1, both negative. So down 2 to the left 1. Okay, when I look at this one, I have both my less than and my equal to, so that one's going to be a solid line. So I'm going to put a solid line in there. And then I'm going to take my colored pencil and I'm going to hide, well, first I have to decide which side to color, so let's do that. So is my alligator mouth eating my y? No, it's not. So it's going to be less than. So I'm just going to take a few points and I'm going to shade on that side. So I know less than is going to be on that side. The first thing I do is highlight my line, then I go around my graph all the way up and back, and then everything on that side is going to be shaded. Okay, so my solution for this one is going to be between these little, where they overlap, where it kind of turns purple, so that little triangle right there. The overlapping is purple. So let's look at this next one, number 2. The first one we can graph right away because y is all by itself. So I love when that happens, when we're all set to graph. So I'm going to start at a positive 1. So here's my line where I'm going to start. My first point goes on positive 1. And then this is my slope. So my m, this one's kind of tricky because I have a negative out front, but that negative can only go on one of the numbers. This time right now, I'm going to put it on the top number. So I'm going to have negative 1 over 2. So that means I'm going to go down 1 to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. And if I can't go down and to the right, I'm going to go up and to the left. Okay, so we went down and to the right, but now we went up and to the left. Okay, I have both less than and an equal to, so I need to make that a solid line. So I'm going to put that solid line in right there. And now I'm looking at my alligator mouth. Is my alligator mouth eating my y? It is not, so that means it's going to be less than, so I'm going to pull down everything below that. Find your colored pencil, and you're going to first draw on your line, and then overlap the outside, and then fill in. Okay, and now we're going to graph our second line, which is this one right here, 1/2 x plus y is greater than or equal to negative 3. That is not in y equals. We have to get it in y equals. So I'm going to say 1/2 x plus y is greater than or equal to negative 3. Okay, I want my y by itself, so I have to get rid of that positive 1/2 x. So now I'm going to subtract 1/2 x. And if I subtract 1/2 x over there, I also have to subtract 1/2 x on this side. So my y is by itself. I'm going to keep my greater than equal to symbol the same. And then remember, when you're in mx plus b, your x comes first. So I'm going to say negative 1/2 x minus 3. Okay, so this first one I'm going to start at this negative 3 on this line right here. So my first point goes on negative 3. And then from there, this is my slope. So my m is going to be negative 1/2. Well, if you looked at your m from before, when I look at this m, it was negative 1/2, and this hem is negative 1/2. So I know these are going to be parallel lines, but we have to see, are they going to overlap? So from there, I'm going to come back to my point on my negative 3, and I'm going to go down 1 to the right 2. So down 1, right 2. Down 1, right 2. And if I can't go down to the right, then I go up and to the left. And then it has, so when I look at this, it has both the greater than and the equal to. So I know I need to make it solid. So I'm going to make that a solid line. And the alligator mouth is eating that y, so it's greater than. So I'm going to shade everything above it. So I'm going to find my colored pencil. First, I'm going to draw on the line I just made, and then I'm going to outline the graph until they meet back up again, and then I'm just going to shade them. So even though these are parallel lines, you're used to, if it's in our y equals and we're not doing inequalities, you're used to parallel lines being no solution. This one actually is going to have a solution because they are overlapping in between those two parallel lines. So that's where our purple is. So that's where our solution would be. Okay, let's look at number 3. Number 3, we have 3x minus y is greater than or equal to 6. So that one's going to need some work. So 3x minus y is greater than or equal to 6. Okay, I want to get my my y by itself. So I'm going to say minus 3x minus 3x. So now I have negative y is greater than or equal to negative 3x plus 6. Okay, so when I'm looking at this one, if I have a negative in front of my y, that really is a negative 1, and you can't have a negative 1 in front. So we're going to have to divide each of those pieces by negative 1. So I'm going to divide each of those by negative 1. If you remember when we did inequalities before, when we divide by a negative, we have to make sure that we flip around our inequality symbol. So now my y is going to be all by itself. I'm going to flip my inequality, so now it's less than equal to. When I have my negative 3 over negative 1, those are going to turn into a positive 3x. And if I have a positive 6 and a negative 1, remember if you have a positive or negative, you keep the negative. Oh, that should be a 6. So minus 6. So now I can graph this one. I'm going to start on a negative 6. So my first point goes on negative 6. And then this is my slope. So my m is up 3 over 1. So from there I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1. Okay, and that's about as high as I can go. I can't go up 3 over 1. I have both my less than and equal to, so I'm going to do a line that says less than and equal to, so I need that solid line. Okay, again, the alligator mouth isn't eating it, so we know it's going to be less than. So I'm going to, oops, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to find 3 points, and I'm going to go less than. So I'm going to find the points, and because less is going down, I'm going to pull down. So I know that side I have to shade. So now I'm going to highlight that side, highlight my graph, go up, meet them back over again, and just fill in. There we go, that first one's done. That next one, so we just did this one right here and we converted it to that right there. So now we need 2x plus y is less than or equal to 4. So I'm going to rewrite that one. I have 2x plus y is less than or equal to 4. So I'm going to say minus 2x minus 2x. Y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. The y is by itself. It doesn't have a negative in front, so we don't have to divide by anything. So now I'm going to find my positive 4 and highlight that. That's going to go on this right there. So first I'm going to do a positive 4 is my first. And then from there, this is my slope. My slope is a negative 2 over 1. So I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. Okay, and if I can't go down 2 to the right 1, I'm going to go up 2 to the left 1. Okay, I have both a less than and an equal to, so I need a solid line. And then because the alligator mouth is not eating it, less than, so I'm going to find 3 points and I'm going to pull down, find my colored pencil, shade the line, shade the graph, and then shade everything in between. Okay, so my solution for this one is going to be right where that blue and that red meet to make that kind of purple color. So that little triangle piece right there. Okay, this next one where it says x is greater than or equal to 3, remember that this is my x coordinate and this is my y coordinate. So if it's x is greater than, or sorry, less than or equal to 3, on my x coordinate, if I put a little dot or a little point on the actual 3, and because it's less than or equal to, I'm going to make a solid line. And remember, x is vertical, so I'm going to make a vertical line on that. Okay, and if it's less than, we have to think, what number is less than 3? Is 6 less than 3 or is 1 less than 3? Well, 1 is less than 3. So I'm going to shade on that line. I'm going to go all the way across, over and up again, and then I'm just going to fill in that. So we just did x is less than or equal to 3. Okay, the next one we're going to have to do a little bit of work for because it says x plus y is greater than 2. So x plus y is greater than 2. Okay, so I got to get rid of my x first because I only want y by itself. So now I have y. It's still going to be is greater than. I have a negative x plus 2. So I can graph that one. So I'm going to start with this one, a positive 2. It's going to land right here. My first point goes on positive 2. Okay, this tells me where I'm going to go. Well, that m, there's no number in front of it, so it's a negative 1. So I'm going to go down 1 to the right 1. And if I can't go down and to the right, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go up and to the left. Okay, it is just the greater than symbol. So these ones we're going to connect with a dashed line. Okay, and it says it's greater than, so I'm going to find a point and I'm going to pull up. So everything on that side of the line. So here's my line. Follow the graph. And then fill in. So when I look at this one, my solution is going to be between that and this. So where it's that purple color, that's my solution. Okay, we're going to continue with solving systems by graphing, and we're going to do that with word problems. So number 5 says, actually, before we read number 5, notice that I changed a couple things. So when I went and graphed this the first time, the graph did not work out well because we were working with decimal numbers. And those are just hard to graph. So I want you to change where it says that $2.50, change that to $2. And the $3.50, change that to $3. And then in question A, before where it said 6x plus, I can't remember, maybe it was 650x. Anyway, that was all wrong. It's all scratched out of mine. Put 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 28. That'll help us be able to graph this more easily. Okay, so it says the most Jack can spend on bagels and muffins for the cross-country team is $28. A package of 6 bagels costs $2. And a package of muffins costs $3 and contains 8 muffins. He needs to buy at least 12 bagels and 24 muffins. So when we talk about this first one, the 3x plus 2y, this is how much they cost. So the $3 for the, looks like muffins, and the $2 for the bagels, between the muffins and the bagels, they have to stay under $28. And then when we look at this right here where it says 6x, is greater than or equal to 12, that's the bagels. So when you have 6 bagels, you have to, in each package, it has to be that X wants to know how many packages we're going to buy, but we need to have more than 12. And then when we're looking at this, the 8y is greater than or equal to 24. That's our muffins. So we want to have more than 24 muffins. So we want to know how many packages of muffins we have to buy. We're going to first start with that 3x plus 2y is greater than or equal to 28. Just like before, we have to get it in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to just rewrite down here, 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 28. And as you know, we need y all by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3x and subtract 3x. And now I'm at 2y is less than or equal to, our x comes first, so negative 3x plus 28. And now when we look at that, we still have a number by our y. Those are being multiplied, so I'm going to divide that by 2, divide this by 2, and divide this by 2. That leaves me with y is less than or equal to negative 3 over 2. I'm not going to divide those out because that's going to give me a decimal number, and those are hard to use. And then plus 14, and I need an x right there. Okay, so now we can graph this first one. So I'm going to take this right here and graph it on the line. So when we always start to graph, we always start with our y-axis. And this time our y-axis is going to be on this side right here. Okay, so that's our y, and that's where we're going to plot our first number 14. So I'm with my red color, I'm going to go up 14. So see if you can, I'm going to get a little bit closer because those are kind of small lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So my first dot, my first point is right there. That's on my y-axis. So this is my y-axis. Okay, this is my slope, so it's telling me I'm going to go down 3 and to the right 2. So from that point, I'm going to go down 3 and to the right 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And I can't go down 3 more, so I'm just going to leave it just like that. And it's greater than less than or equal to. So I'm going to go ahead and put that solid line in there. Okay, so when I look at this, notice that the alligator mouth is not eating the y, so it's going to be less than. So I'm going to take my colored pencil. Well, before I take my colored pencil, I'm going to find 3 points, pull down because it's less than. And now along that line, I can trace with my colored pencil, and then you're just going to outline the outside of your graph too. And then just fill everything in there. Okay, so that's where we got that first one. Now we're going to try that blue one where it says 6x is greater than or equal to 12. Well, again, we have to get our letter all by itself in order to solve. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it right here. 6x is greater than or equal to 12. Okay, we need our x all by itself. So to get rid of that 6, right now it's being multiplied, I'm going to divide each one by 6. And I get x is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, so if you remember right, your left side, that y-axis, that's your y, which makes this one on the bottom become my x. And if it was x is greater than 2, I'm just going to count along that x, and I'm going to put a dot on 2. Remember, x's are vertical lines. So that line, and it's greater than or equal to, that line is going to go straight up. So I'm going all the way up to the top. Okay, and if it's x is greater than, and it's greater than because that alligator mouth is eating that x, so it's going to be bigger. So if this is 1 and this is 2, I want greater than 2. So everything, well, this would be 3. Well, obviously 3 is greater than 2. So everything to the right of that line is going to be shaded blue. So I'm going to draw along that line, and then I'm going to outline the outside of the graph. And then everything to the right of that is going to be shaded. So now I'm just going to pick a little bit thicker one just so I can color a little faster. And I'm going to go ahead and shade that area. Okay, so we did the blue one. So now we still have the green one. Again, we need to get our letter by itself. So I have 8y is greater than or equal to 24. So I'm just going to rewrite that. I'm going to say 8y is greater than or equal to 24. I want to get y by itself, so I'm going to divide by 8 and divide by 8. And I get y is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so again, remember your y is your left-hand side. So I'm going to go up 3 and put a dot. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be my 3. I'm going to put a dot right there. Okay, that one, if you remember right, is the horizontal line. So that one's going to go all the way to the end of the graph. Okay, and it's y is greater. So greater, if I think of these numbers, if this is a 2, this was a 3, and this is a 4, everything above that is greater. So I'm going to go ahead and shade above that so it's greater. So I'm going to draw along the line. Whoops, that's the wrong color. Sorry about that. Draw along the line, and then I'm going to shade the outside. I'm going to grab my thicker one, and all of this is going to be shaded above. I'm just going to go through and shade everything above that green line. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do have to show that so we know what you're looking or what you want shaded. Okay, so when I look at my graph, I have a little section, this triangular section that is between the blue and the green and the red. So that little triangular section would be our solution. That's what we're looking for. That would tell us that if we find some points within there and fill them in for our x and our y, that would solve any of our equations. That would fit our formula that we need to make at least, or to stay under $28 and have enough muffins and bagels for everybody. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with number 6. Okay, Rondell makes $10 an hour cutting grass and $12 an hour raking leaves. He cannot work more than 15 hours per week. Graph 2 inequalities that Rondell can use to determine how many hours he needs to work at each job if he wants to earn at least $120 per week. Okay, so we're going to use the following equations. So this first equation is just going to tell us how many hours he has to work. What does that one say? Yes, how many hours he has to work cutting grass and raking leaves to make at least $120. He could make more than $120, but he wants to make at least $120. Okay, so we're going to start with that one first. I'm going to say 10x, and oops, that is a highlighter. And I'm going to rewrite those just so I have a little bit more room. 10x plus 12y is greater than or equal to 120. Okay, I want my y by itself, so we're going to do it just like we have been doing. I'm going to take 10x away from both of those. I'm left with 12y is greater than or equal to negative 10x plus 120. Remember that 10x is going to come first because it has the x on it. Then I'm going to divide this by 12, and divide this by 12, and divide this by 12. Okay, now I'm left with y is greater than or equal to 10 divided by 12. If I did that, I would get a decimal number, and I don't want a decimal number, but I know that 10 and 12 are both even numbers, so I could divide both of them by 2, and then I could make my slope a little bit smaller. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, so I'm going to put a negative 5 up there, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. That has to have the x on it, and then you have 120 divided by 12, and that's going to give you a positive 10. So now this one I can go ahead and graph. So I'm going to do the same thing. Remember that we always start our y-axis with this guy right here. This is our y-axis. So you're used to having like the 4 quadrants of your graph. This is just the right hand, the top right hand of our graph. So I'm going to put my first dot on a positive 10. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to count until I get to 10, and I'm going to make a dot. And you can label these, and a lot of people, you probably should label them. They're just so tiny, it's hard to get all those in there. So I'm okay if you just want to put the dot where it belongs. So I'm going to count up to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So my first point is going right there. Okay, and now my slope says I'm going to go down 5 and to the right 6. So I'm going to count down 5 to the right 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if I can go further, I should keep going further. So I'm going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then to the right 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move this over. Why is it not moving over? 5, 6. There we go. Right there. Okay. If we come back here, it has both greater than and equal to. So I'm going to make that line right in there. It's going to be a solid line because of the equal to. And then it's eating the y, so that means it's going to be greater, so I need to shade up. So I'm going to take my red colored pencil or your red highlighter. It does, or not your highlighter. Please don't use a highlighter because you can't erase that. And I'm going to just go right along the outside edge there. So I'm going to go along the line I made and then the outside edge. And then I have a nice fat tip here to color this in a little faster. Okay, so we got our first one. The next one we're looking at is this one right here. We have x plus y is less than or equal to 15. So before we do that, we got to get our y all by itself in order to graph. So I'm going to rewrite that. I'm going to say x plus y is less than or equal to 15. Okay, the first thing we're going to take away is our x on both sides. So I'm left with y, and I'm going to say is less than or equal to negative x plus 15. Okay, so now my y is by itself. I'm going to go ahead and start graphing. When I start graphing, I always start with this back number right here. And remember, that's going to go on your y-axis. And my y-axis is right here. So it's going to go right down that line. So if you remember right, that red dot was 10. So I'm just going to go up 5 more. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So now I'm up 15. Okay, and then this is my slope right there. So there's no number. So when I'm looking at my m, if there's no number in front of the x, it's really a 1. And because it's a negative, it's going to be a negative 1 over 1. So this one tells me I'm going to go down 1 and then to the right 1. So I'm just going to go down and to the right for each one of these points I'm making. And when I look at what I have here, it says it is less than or equal to. So because of that equal to, I'm going to make a solid line. Okay. When I look at my inequality symbol, it is not pointing towards that y. It's pointing away from it. So it's not eating the y. So it's going to be less than. So I know I'm going to go down from that line. So now I'm just going to take my colored pencil and I'm going to shade, that's a little bit thick, I'm going to go a little bit less than that. I'm going to shade right along that line, and then I'm going to shade the outside of the graph all the way. And then just fill in. Okay, so my solution for this one, how many hours he can work for each one of them to make at least $120. If he were to fall, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. If he were to fall between this line and this line, that's where they overlap. So that's where our solution would be, where that purple area is. Okay, so this is what you will be doing. You will be working on number 5 assignment, graphing systems of equations. The front side is all just the graphing part. The back, you'll have 2 word problems, but your word problems are going to look very similar to the word problems we did right here.